off, Dan, this holiday season?
Absolutely. I mean, look, that definitely this sort of right now it's an internet race war, but I'm hopeful that it doesn't become anything more. This is what we're really entirely focused on at the new MRCTP blog right now. We're covering this. We're trying to expose Al Sharpton and his history of doing this, but this is something that we're focused on. This is something that we've been getting a lot of you know, terrible things said about myself and others on Twitter who are trying to defending the police in this situation. So this is going to be the focus probably for the next month or so, the continuing protests, and I'm going to be right out there, talking to them and trying to figure out what's on their mind and where this is going to go from this point on forward.
So let me ask you this, Dan. I mean, that's one. As Mike and I were talking in the first half hour, and I was on a different radio station last night talking about this race stuff, and the huge impact on the not only conversation but literal lives and families across the country this year.
Yeah.
How are you going to treat this in a way that you don't just be identified as, a race baiter or a hateful right or something like that? I mean, obviously, there's thinking that you have to go through in order to position yourself. And what goes through your mind with that? It's very interesting to see how that kind of thing happens.
Right. If you go watch our past videos, as I know you guys have, because besides your reviews, posted a lot of them. I would say I have probably talked to more African Americans than any other conservative journalist in the country, at least anybody on video. We do this all the time because we want to get to the heart of what they're being told by their leaders and what the truth is. And really, what set this all off was Michael Brown and the fact that the Michael Brown story was so filled with lies, so filled with, myths, and the mainstream media, the liberal media, just ran with it. So what we have to do is we have to go out and politely as possible. We are not trying to fight with these people. We do not try to argue with them. I go up to them and I ask them these basic questions. Well, look, the facts say this. Why do you think the facts say this one thing when you guys are all out here saying another thing? Why do you think so many witnesses and forensics experts said that Michael Brown didn't have his hands up? Why do you still believe that he did? That's the trick, and you have to get them to answer these questions. And once you do, what you eventually learn is, well, it's not so much about the facts. It's about the symbolism. It's about the rhetoric, and it's about what they're being told by the Al Sharptons of the world that is really causing this to become tinder block and now putting police lives at risk.
And you know what, Dan? I mean, exactly to your point, various black leaders, at least a couple who I have read, have actually come out and said it doesn't matter what the facts are, particularly as it relates to the hands up, don't shoot nonsense. But they don't say it supports a narrative, but it furthers the cause, is I think what they say. How do you deal with that?
Well, the only thing you can do is you can get the facts out there. I mean, I'm not going to say that most of these marchers, these protesters, are intentionally lying. I don't believe they are. I believe they are so adopted into this narrative that they have actually come to believe it's true. Now, what we want to ask, especially, and I'm still trying to formulate a way to ask this where they're not going to be able to change the subject, these protesters, when they finally sort of reemerge publicly, which I think is going to happen more in the middle of January, where they have some marches planned, is you're going to talk about these two cops that were shot, and whether they or not they think these protesters think they would have been shot had these protests not erupted in the first place. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they answer that. If they brush it off, if they say, well, it's unrelated, this was just one crazy guy, and it has nothing to do with the protest, when in fact, this shooter, this cop murderer, did kill two police officers, and he did so on Instagram while saying that Mike Brown and Eric Garner were his inspiration for doing so. I think it's going to be very, very hard for them to come up with a reason that is not related in any way to what is going on. And I'm praying that the two cops shot in L.A. today were not part of were not taken in by the same narrative and didn't do the same thing for the same reasons. But in this environment, who knows? So I want to find the question. My job, what I do in my videos, is I find the right questions to ask in a way that they're either going to have to tell the truth when they answer it, or they're going to look ridiculous when they try to wriggle their way out of it.
Right. And that's the beauty of having that sort of medium to communicate that message, because either one tells the real story. If somebody is stuttering around trying to make something up, um, or if they just can't answer at all, then that continues the narrative that you're driving at. And this one's particularly
Yeah.
interesting. It's one of our listeners it just tweeted me on this particular topic that it's cops getting shot at is a thing that happens, as I'd mentioned in the first half hour. That happens all the time. I mean, that's just an unfortunate part of law enforcement in the country. But the assassination, either assassinations of or assassination attempts, that it would be impossible to say that that is not connected with the protests and that ultimately found its way into the police turning their back on de Blasio yesterday or Saturday.
Yes, no, the police force certainly believes that there's a connection between these protests and between the murders. That is why they've taken this really unprecedented step of turning their back on the mayor, both figuratively and literally. This is really bad. I mean, I've never seen it this bad in my lifetime. Tensions between police, between the mayor's office, and between the black community, and that these things have a tendency to sort of snowball. And I worry that I'm sure you guys are familiar with what happened the other night, where there was a young man who pointed a gun on a cop and was shot, and immediately you had protesters out near Ferguson, about 2 miles away, who automatically assumed that this was a race-related police shooting, and they were ready to throw Molotov cocktails, and they were ready to riot. That's the problem. It's a tinderbox. Both sides are adopted on their narrative, and the next time something like this happens, I don't know how big it's going to get, but this is some serious business, and I'm actually looking forward, though, to going out and talking to these people once again, once this whole thing has some time to marinate, and once we especially know more facts about the shooting that occurred over the weekend.
Oh yeah, and well, first of all, obviously you need to be careful. It's interesting the left's response to this. I saw on Facebook this morning somebody had posted. I'm not sure, it was one of the Facebook Occupy sites. The meme that they've put out is there was a picture at the top of the meme. There was a picture of a Westboro protest, and then the bottom picture was the police officers turning their back on de Blasio, and it simply said, there are now two groups of Americans protesting funerals. So that's the way they're spinning it, is the police are due the ire and the hatred, just like the Westboro folks, because they're protesting at funerals. So that's one of the things that the left is going to...
person, yeah. Any reasonable person who knows what Westboro Baptist Church does and who knows what the NYPD were doing on that day knows how nonsensical that actually is. The NYPD was turning their backs not on their fallen, not on the departed. They were turning their backs on de Blasio because they feel de Blasio facilitated their shootings, because he was vocally supportive of protesters. He let them get away with anything they wanted to. He let them beat up their cops. This is it's like sanity is turned on its head since Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of that city, and it's sad. I think, and it's one of the other things about the left that I've really noticed recently, and I think that Michael Brown and the way this whole thing has evolved is a perfect example of the tactics that they use. The narrative gets adopted so early. The cops get convicted in the media so soon that it snowballs, and by the time the facts are coming out, there's nothing you can do about it. And I'd say thank God these cops did what they did in such a high-profile situation, because it shows that this is a serious breach between the left, which is represented by de Blasio in this case, and the people who protect the biggest city in this country. And had they not done it, I think a lot of people would just have gone on assuming that there is a serious problem with cops and it's their fault, their responsibility. I think this was a huge statement. I think it was an important one that needed to be made.
You're exactly right, man. And this thing is going to get scarier, I believe, around the country, across the country, before it gets less. Listen, I want to switch gears here just a tad, because as we've already said, we play your videos, your MRC videos, somewhat religiously on IJR. I've watched them for quite a long time. And as serious as this stuff is we're talking about, right now. You do some pretty hilarious stuff, and it's hilarious because of the responses. But I want to play, I want to play a short clip, Dan, of your MRC video where you were, I forget the college campus, VMU or whatever have you, where the petition, the things that you can get people to sign petitions on are hilarious. This one is this one is about Jonathan Gruber, you all, and let's just listen to a short snippet of that, and then talk to Dan about it.
Great.
As I'm sure you all know by now, Jonathan Gruber, the architect of Obamacare, thinks that the American voter is stupid. Well, today I want to find out if that's actually true. It's petition time. Yes, you want to help us make Jonathan Gruber the new Secretary of Defense?
I love that.
All right, thank you. Who wants to help make Jonathan Gruber the next Secretary of Defense? This is important, people. Jonathan Gruber for Secretary. You know Jonathan Gruber? Yeah. Secretary of Defense, we think he would make a good one. We don't like the nominee that Obama's put out. We think he's too militaristic. Jonathan Gruber understands that the American voter is not necessarily that smart. We feel that this man, Jonathan Gruber, is better suited for that job, and we're trying to get President Obama to change his mind and nominate Jonathan Gruber instead of Ashton Carter. Jonathan Gruber, you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
He's actually one of the people who put together Obamacare.
Okay.
So he's got that,
yeah.
and I mean, it's like magic when he talks. Like he's great at convincing people of things. And, not everybody's that smart, like you and me, when it comes to these kind of things. So, and he understands that. You're not a stupid guy, right? And you vote.
Yeah,
and
I used to volunteer for charity.
And I've heard all these you've done, or watched them, or posted most of them myself. Dan, is it sometimes hard to keep a straight face with these people?
No, it's not, because we go there and we know pretty much what's going to happen every time. We
Right.
don't go there thinking, oh, nobody will sign, no college students will sign this Jonathan Gruber petition. They're clearly all going to know who Jonathan Gruber is and what he said. We know that they don't, essentially.
Right.
So we know that even though we're going in there saying, hey, you're a smart guy like me, that they're signing a petition for somebody who doesn't think that they're smart, and then they're proving that he's right when they sign the petition. You guys mentioned Jesse Waters earlier, and I get compared to him a lot. But the difference is, when he goes out, he gets to go to the beach and he gets to talk to drunk co-eds and stuff, and
Right.
he talks to a lot of homeless people. We try to always talk to sober kids who are coming out of class or going to class on the campus, and it can be, we kind of think we know what they're going to do. Occasionally, though, we get a smart one. There was a video that came out a while ago. We're trying to get people to sign a petition about to get the president to support ISIS. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that one. Well, we
Right,
had a former
I am.
military guy come up to us, and he almost kicked my butt, and rightfully so, because I was getting kids to sign the petition, but they had no idea who ISIS was. So we were actually relieved that we found at least one person who was like, what are you doing? You're crazy, and all of these other students are crazy for signing this petition. Get off my campus. Of course, we explained to him what we were doing, and eventually he understood and backed off. But
When you
yeah,
show up on a college campus, do you just show up, or do you clear it with the university ahead of time, or how do you do that?
No. Actually, the great thing about the university we go to, it's George Mason University. It's publicly funded, so we're allowed to be on the campus in the first place as a matter of freedom of speech. And second of all, they have an entire free speech zone in the middle of campus where anybody is allowed to say or do anything. We mentioned the Westboro Baptist Church earlier. They allowed them to come in there and do their thing a couple months ago. So we have free range. We have free range to talk to the students, and we do. We don't just do the petition videos. We ask them questions. We ask them, what is Benghazi? And they had no clue for the most part. One person said Benghazi sounded like a guy who used to work at her gym. So we do this quite frequently, and it just, it goes to show you, especially with the left, where these college students are part of the integral part of the left's base. They're part of the Obama base. I am sure they will be part of the Hillary Clinton base come 2016 or whenever. These are the future leaders of America, and they have no idea what's going on in terms of politics.
And their votes
or
are equal to
current
yours
events.
and mine and Housem's. That's the scary part.
Yes, it is. And, another one, with the greatest, the most politically active campus in the country, statistically speaking, is actually American University, which is right downtown D.C. It's kind of off of Northern Virginia where MRC is located. We went to the most politically active campus in Virginia, and this video is up on mrctv.org on YouTube. And we asked students there if they could name one